how large language models are trained and why it matters to your business. So here's the part that most people never hear. The generative AI tools you're already using every day, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, Claude, all of them are built on top of large language models, or LLMs. And these are the engines underneath the hood. They're not just one feature, they're the foundation. And understanding how they're trained explains almost everything about why they behave the way that they do. It also explains why sometimes they give you brilliant answers and sometimes they give you answers that make you question everything. So when you strip it down, an LLM's entire worldview comes from its training data. These models don't have access to reality. They don't have lived experience like you and I. Their world comes from the text they were trained on, and that's mostly the open internet. And that might seem like a lot, but the open internet is only about 5% of everything that exists online. The other 95% of the world's information is locked behind paywalls, private databases, enterprise systems, academic journals, government repositories, all the stuff businesses actually rely on. So unless you give the model some of that information yourself, it doesn't know it exists, and maybe you shouldn't give it that information. This is why out-of-the-box answers often sound generic or incomplete. They reflect the world the model was allowed to see. So how are these big LLMs trained? Training begins at breaking all the text that they see on the internet into tokens, tiny little chunks of language like chopping up sentences into Lego pieces. The model then trains on billions or trillions of these little pieces. ChatGPT 4, for example, was trained on roughly 20 trillion tokens. And for example, a human 4-year-old has processed about 20 trillion visual tokens just through lived experience. So the scale is huge, but it's not infinite. And it's certainly not at human level. And because these systems don't actually read the way we do, tokens determine cost, accuracy, and even how far back the AI can remember in its conversation. When it forgets what you said 10 minutes ago, it's often because it literally ran out of space to hold all the Lego pieces. And during pre-training, the model learns patterns, not memorizing facts. It's basically learning when people ask for this, the most likely answer and what they want is this. And this is powerful, but also why hallucinations happen. The model isn't retrieving information, it's predicting based on probability. That's why you can get an answer that feels brilliant one moment and then wildly wrong the next. Or there isn't consistency between the models answering different questions, or even the way that you asked a question one time, you get a totally different answer the next day that you ask it. It's not being inconsistent, it's doing exactly what it was trained to do. Next in the training process comes the part that almost nobody really thinks about, is the system prompts. Before you ever touch a Copilot or a Gemini or put a question into ChatGPT, humans at these companies, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, they teach the model how it should behave. They set rules for tone, safety, caution, creativity, helplessness, and what to prioritize and what to refuse. This is where another layer of bias enters the system. It's like designing a massive public library. Humans decide which books get in, which shelves matter most, what gets pushed to the front and the back, what gets quietly removed or buried. So when you ask the same question to different generative AI tools and then get different answers, it's because each one of these have been curated by a different set of librarians. Fine-tuning adds another layer. This is where models are exposed to some specific data, sometimes from companies, experts, simply from the examples of the tasks that they need to perform. It's how they learn brand tone, industry language, customer scenarios, and how they behave in professional environments. This is why two people can ask ChatGPT the same question, but they get different answers. One person gives context, examples, or documents, effectively doing light fine-tuning of the model in the moment, where the other person gives no context in the chat box, and they expect magic. And to that point is the final loop in how these models are trained. It's us, the users. Every time that you use an LLM, when you correct it, fine-tune a prompt, reject an answer, or provide an example, you're shaping the next answer. And depending on your license level, your conversations may not be used for overarching LLM training, but within that conversation and that context specifically. You're building a relationship between human intent and machine prediction. And this brings me back to one of the clearest descriptions of modern AI from Stanford's Fei Li, and she says that today's AI is like a machine that can make a perfect chess move while the room is on fire. It can calculate beautifully inside this narrow box, but it can't see the fire. It doesn't know to leave. It can't see your business context, your ethical constraints, your strategy, your real world consequences and information. That's still your job, the human. Which is exactly why, for most businesses, the goal isn't to train its own internal LLM. Most don't need to. The goal is to learn how to work with these pre-trained models inside the tools you already use. And that starts with developing good habits. And this is what I call the 5 C's of safe AI use. First, you cross-check answers so you're not relying on a single model's limited worldview. Number 2, you're going to control what you put in so you're not oversharing or feeding it information it doesn't need, or maybe it's not safe. Then you're going to ask it to cite its sources so you can check credibility before you repeat anything. Then you're going to compare alternatives. So ask for more than one angle, or maybe go to another model for its opinion. Lastly, on the safety note, you're going to configure your settings, the custom instructions, the privacy controls, the tone guidance, so that the model works in the way you need it to, not just the way it defaults. Once you understand how these LLM models are trained, and you pair that understanding with the 5 C's of safe AI use and those practical habits, you stop treating generative AI like a magic answer machine, and you start treating it like a collaborator, one that's fast, tireless, and incredibly helpful, but it still needs your judgment, oversight, and context to produce work that actually moves your business forward. So if your company has questions, you're not really sure which route you want to go, either working safely within a pre-trained model and your licenses, or building your own LLM using all of your company's data, I can help you with that here at GrowthUP Partners.